I hope this is the end of this dilemma for right now. I really hope it is. But in the meantime, once this furnace is actually installed and the other one is removed, the only thing I can say is this. The best thing to do is take the furnace that's got to be replaced now and take that furnace and see what is wrong with it. Because there's got to be something where that furnace just malfunction on days where it's supposed to be 15, 20 degrees outside. There's no way in the heck that a furnace should be malfunctioning. I don't care who makes this furnace. Whoever the manufacturer is, they ought to know that people who have these furnaces who go out like this are going to start complaining. Whether they got the means to afford to buy another one, or to put a down payment, or to finance another one, or just stop dealing with the piece of junk that's the identical model to this one in the basement. You know, I can only stress that enough. And it's the same thing with any other type of goods or services and products or appliances. If you got a bum product, I guarantee you there's somebody else. And it's not just one particular person who has a problem with a furnace. There's more than one individual who have problems with these furnaces and thermostats, hot water tanks and stuff. And you know, you don't need that. No person wants to deal with that. I don't care if you're inexperienced and you don't know anything about furnaces and hot water tanks or plumbing or stuff that in a house or an apartment or you know, even in a building. See, this is why I explain to people, I don't know much about this, but what I do know is the furnace that's in that basement downstairs, you know, it malfunctioned when it was needed the most. And since the man who came here to help repair the furnace, okay, I'm pretty sure this furnace probably will work. It may have to have some little kinks worked out of it because it came from somebody else's property and she doesn't have to pay that much for it if she had to pay anything for it at all. So this is a former tenant who actually did look out for her and got her a furnace. So now, hopefully, when he comes back, hopefully he'll come back and hook this thing up and get it working, and hopefully you'll get some heat in this house before the next cold snap, because the next cold snap could be, you know, toward the weekend. So since today is the 25th of January, you don't know whether the temperatures are going to get back into single digits. Okay, and unfortunately, I still stress this. Why in the heck does a company have a furnace that has a motherboard on it? You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't make any sense. So what you have to do is this. Pray, hopefully, that this furnace will solve the problem for now. And unfortunately, this is a good lesson to learn. If you don't know anything about furnaces, talk to somebody who does work on these furnaces and repair and replace these furnaces. Find out what you need to know, because, you know, like, I remember I had a furnace that used to go out when I lived in my first apartment. My first apartment, I had a furnace that was always going out whenever the power went out. And so the first year that I ever spent on my own in my first apartment, I had a forced air furnace. And every time the electricity would go out because the power went out, guess what would happen? Well, it would blow out the pilot light to the furnace in my apartment. And at that time, I had no idea. The only thing I know is when you wake up and you know that your house or your apartment is cold because you don't have heat working. And I knew at that time I had a forced air apartment that had a very small unit that was in a very small room. And for some reason, every time the electricity went out, because when you get bad weather and it knocks out the power, well, that's what was happening with the furnace that I had in my first apartment when I stayed in the Metropolitan Housing Authority where I lived at. And I got sick and tired of it. You understand what I'm saying? Because even though each apartment had its own unit in the furnace room where, you know, it had a forced air furnace. But if the electricity went out or the power went out like it did a lot of times, the pilot light would go out and you had to wait until the electricity come back on, and then you had to call the maintenance person to come out and relight the pilot for the furnace to come back on.